Happy New Comic Book Day, geeks, and welcome to issue 47 of the Script Heroes podcast.
The show where we bring you comic news, book reviews, and industry blues. My name is Joseph Jasanowski, and I'm the writer of Janitor Hero, Cunning Carly, and the Cryptoverse.
And I'm Katie Markham, scripter of the Rusty Robot Country Club and ghostwriter extraordinaire. We have some awesome polls for you today. We are rocking with Void Rivals, number 13, The Moon is Following Us, number 2, Rook Exodus, number 6, The Body Trade, number 2, The Hunger in the Dusk, book 2, issue 3, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, number 3, and finally, on this podcast, despite him being right up there as both of our favorite heroes, we are finally talking about the current run of Nightwing.
This is the first time in a long time that I will be reading Nightwing as it comes out, which is the reason.
When was the last time? Because I'm assuming it's
Early Rebirth, like through when I don't think I actually got. I think I heard about Rick before I had actually read. I have I think the first 2 Rick issues, but I heard about it before I actually read them, and then never read them, and then never picked back up Nightwing. So,
very valid. Because it went on for like 2 years, so
yeah,
your patience was tried.
Yeah,
very excited to jump into Nightwing.
But yeah, if you enjoyed any of those reviews coming up, or anything else on today's episode, you can follow the pod on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, all at the handle Script Heroes Pod. Or you can find me personally on all those same socials at JJAZ1111.
And I am everywhere as Katie Markham Pro.
And now, let's move on to the news. Okay, so for the kind of down news week that always tends to follow a Comic-Con news week, which we did last week, I'm leaning into some books being announced for creators that each of us like. So I'm going to start off with one from one of my favorite writers. And they're also both horror themed because, that tends to be what's announced around, Halloween time. So we're going to be talking about Archie Comics' new one-shot announcement. The 9 Lives
Kardak?
No, it's not another Kardak, unfortunately. Would be cool, but it's another one of those. They mainly do these like one shots now with like a lot of their old characters and stuff. So this is called The 9 Lives of Salem, and it is written by Cullen Bunn, and it's gonna be about Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
But it sounds specifically like about her cat.
I do believe that is going to be a yeah. Let me give you the. Let me give you the blurb here. Salem was once a powerful warlock whose misuse of powers led him to live the rest of his life in servitude, acting as a cat familiar to a family of witches. But even in feline form, he can't escape the sins of his past. And when some familiar faces return seeking revenge, he might just use up all of his 9 lives trying to save himself from their wrath. So yeah.
I wasn't a big Sabrina child, MeTV and all that would have reruns and stuff, and I've seen like sassy snippets of Salem the Cat, to the extent that I think this is phenomenal in terms of creator, because having Cullen Bunn on this is very fun because he is both very scary and very funny, and I think that's going to be
Monsters Are My Business, like such right there,
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the name of the koala in that, but
oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no. Yeah, exactly.
It's been a while. That book ended a few months ago, so
yes.
Can't blame us.
It was something cute.
No. I'm sorry.
It was something cute.
It was
like
something
Cuddles
cute.
Or something.
Yeah, I think it was Cuddles, actually. That sounds right.
Brain blast.
That sounds correct to me. So we're gonna go with that.
So we're gonna pretend that it is.
Yeah, we're gonna pretend that it is. But yeah, I think this is gonna be very fun. The art is by Dan Schoening, Ben Galvin, Matt Herms, and Jack Morelli.
Did we recently read something with Ben Schoening?
Dan Schoening. I think we did.
Dan Schoening. Oh jeez.
I feel I think something big 2 is where my brain's at. I don't know why.
I have a horrible feeling that it might be one of the Halloween specials. For those who have not seen it, I don't think it is actually.
Let
I'm a
me jump
fool.
over to, because this
Yeah,
is gonna be really
I'm pulling
embarrassing if.
open my little docky doc.
No. Well,
Okay, yes,
this
Dan's
is
showing.
this.
He did the
Okay,
TMNT
okay.
Saturday Morning Adventures Halloween special
Oh
from
yeah, yeah, yeah,
2023.
yeah. Yes, yes, yes. So really, just even more up my alley. Yeah, this is gonna be very fun. I think it's gonna be
Hell
very
yeah.
entertaining, and I'm very excited for it.
That is
Um,
rad. I'm also hyped for it because we love Cullen Bunn in this house. And more
yeah.
Cullen Bunn is more Cullen fun. And you can have that one for free, Mr.
Yeah.
Bunn.
He's also one of those, and it's one of the things that I love from creators that I love, and it like I feel like a lot of creators will go through a period of doing it and then like really drop off, after they burn themselves out. But like Cullen
Yeah.
Bunn does so many books, like that
Right?
man is doing like more than a book a week, which is just awesome because
Which
it
is
means
wild,
you
yeah.
have so many options to read
Is
his work.
Cullen
But let's jump
I'm
over.
blanking. Is
Oh yeah,
Cullen
yeah.
Bunn writing the Arkham Horror one? Do you remember?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes,
He's
yeah.
writing that Arkham Horror. He's doing the Beyond Mortal, I think is what it's called, which is like a
Hmm.
new horror superhero universe for Dark Horse. They did like the trade of the initial thing, and they just announced like a new spin-off series. He does a bunch of stuff. I
He's
think he
all over the
weirdly also
place.
does like he does like the I'm gonna get wrong what the cross. He does I think a Power Rangers crossover that's had like multiple parts. I want to
Oh,
say
cool.
it's um like a Godzilla Power Rangers crossover, I want to say, but that could be wrong, and I feel bad if that's wrong.
I love comic
But
books, man.
he does
Ridiculous
one
as
of their
fuck.
he does one of their crossovers, and I think they did like a second volume of it recently. He
Hmm.
does a bunch of stuff. The man is constantly,
The
and he
man
does
is
a bunch of
cranking
like
things.
horror series for Oni
Hmm.
Press fairly
Yeah.
frequently. I feel like
Yeah.
but
Mr.
that was
Bunn
me
is
trying to
always doing
transition
something.
because Oni Press is the publisher of the next
Oh.
series announcement we're
Is
going to be
this an
talking
update
about.
on the Elijah Wood thing? Because
No,
I feel
I
like
mean
we
this could be a
heard
part of it.
about
Who
that and then
knows?
never heard anything else about it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know because that's supposed to be an imprint. So there's this absolutely could be a part of that imprint, but
Oh.
that is not like a thing that's been
So
said.
Frodo
So
Baggins is not writing this, is what I have
no, 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 no.
gleaned.
The writer, well, the sole creator or the writer
Ooh.
slash artist on this is
We love a writer.
Patrick Horvath, who is
Oh,
the creator of
yeah.
Beneath the Trees,
Yes.
Where Nobody Sees, which
Which
Katie
was an absolute
loves. Yeah,
riot. It was so
and just
good.
recently got a sequel announcement as part of
Yes.
that IDW's new like horror line
Yeah.
because yeah. So if this is part of that Oni Press horror line, he's just gonna be a part of all the new horror lines.
He's going to be the new face of comic book horror. And it's going to be very
Yeah.
funny because Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees on the covers does not look like a horror book. Like cute
No.
and anthropomorphic animals.
But
Phenomenal.
funny
What is
because
this new
we
series?
just were talking about I think the guy who's been the face of comic book horror for the past like
Yes,
10 years
right?
or whatever, Colin Bunn. So it all connects. But yeah, so all we have to go off of here is basically what I assume is a cover reveal, but essentially an image reveal with what I believe is the title. This is the text
Ooh.
on the cover. What I believe is the title of the book. In the future, the only thing left to fight for. Sorry. In the future, the only thing left to fight for is yourself. It's broken up how
Ooh.
I just did that very
Yeah.
weirdly in like different line
Interesting.
things. Um,
Huh.
and it's essentially a man's face with blood down here, and it's like cross sectioned 3 times. Um, like cut in a like so there's like 4 bits of face that are each like cut, and you can see like the like brain cross
Does it
sections
seem to be
inside.
the same face?
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Okay, okay.
no, I think it's it's sorry, it's two faces. It's two faces, but like they're alternating. I can send you the image if you want to look at it while we talk to
I
people
was
because I'm
Googling
not
it
explaining
while.
stuff.
Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah, because the thing is like because of the art, it looks kind of similar. And then I realized no, the one dude has a mustache and the other dude does not have a mustache. And the
That
hair is slightly
does
different on the two
tend
of
to
them.
be in two different people.
Um,
Shoot me that image. Because I'm very
yeah,
hype about this. Because,
I
like you
just sent
said,
you the image. I
okay,
figured you'd be
sick.
hyped about this.
Yeah, gosh,
Um,
I love Patrick Horvath's art. It's like very almost delicate, and because of that, it's got a lot of detail going on in it, which is
It
super, super,
reminds
super
me,
rad.
just based on this cover image, I have not read and some Beneath the Trees like covers I've seen. It reminds me of somebody, but I can't put my finger on who. Like, it
I'm
reminds
also
me of
gonna
an artist.
say, I believe these are 4 different people.
Are they? I thought the
Yeah.
hair like carried over from the one on the edge to the, like the hair looks very similar on basically the
Oh,
alternating ones.
oh, I see what you're saying. That very much could be
Yeah,
it.
right? Like because the hair feels like it matches up on the opposite ones there.
Yes. Okay,
Like you
yeah.
take the two and the two.
Okay, okay, yeah,
So yeah, I think
yeah,
it's two
yeah.
people.
Two people
Um,
spliced together with money
yeah,
bloodily dripping out of them, and it looks like we have
yeah,
sort of a like almost arena thing going on.
yeah.
I'm gonna
There is
guess
also
that's
the
not the
date on it. I don't know.
title.
Does your image have the? Yeah, your image
Yeah,
probably
March
has the date, right? That's like,
2025.
yeah, March.
Oh, I'm super
Yep.
hyped for this.
I figured you
Yeah,
would be,
I
so that's
really,
why I
really
wanted
like
to.
Patrick Horvath. I'm super excited to see what more they've got going
Yeah, we
on.
really need to do like a bonus episode for Beneath the Trees because
I
that's
think we
such a
can make it a strange
beloved.
Saturday. It's very weird.
Is it strange? You would
It's
know.
weird.
I wouldn't. So okay.
Jay, at
So
what
maybe we'll
point
do
an
that.
anthropomorphic boy is strung up from? You know what? I'll leave you to
Hmm.
learn.
I mean, I do believe we are doing Strange Saturday this weekend, and I believe
We
it's your
sure are.
choice. So,
Well, my choice just got a lot easier. Perfect.
so
That's super duper rad. So
timing
excited to check
works
this
out.
out.
Yeah.
And maybe if you like Beneath the Trees, we'll be able to pull this for the pod.
Yeah, so maybe we're finding out about some new horror things going on, and maybe we'll depending on how many books we have. If it's not another 7 week like this week, we might add them to our pull list and talk about them
Yes,
on the
yes,
podcast.
yes.
But
I am
yeah,
slowly being
that's all the news
dragged
I got.
kicking and screaming into the world of horror. And I have no choice in it because all the creators that I really like keep doing scary things.
Creators like horror, man, in like all
I
mediums
know they
too.
do.
Like
And
creatives
I'm a
really like
scaredy
going into
cat.
horror. In any case, though,
In
do you
any
want to
case,
talk about
yes.
some non-horror books? We don't have any horror book this week, right? Yeah, not non-horror books.
I mean, I was a little
This week.
horrified by the opening of Turtles, but you know. But yes, let's go talk about our polls.
Okay, we have 7 polls for you guys this week, and for once I get to do to Katie what she always does to me, which is read out the books in totally not the order that she has them
Oh,
ready.
jeez. Okay.
So we're going to talk about The Hunger in the Dusk, Book 2, Issue 3. The Body Trade, Issue 2. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Issue 3. The Moon is Following Us, Issue 2. Void Rivals, Issue 13. Rook Exodus, Issue 6. And Nightwing, Issue 119. Which is also a jumping on point. We are not just
Yes.
jumping on randomly an issue.
Good old
We got a new
DC
creative
all
team on
in.
that. So we've got kind of a relaunch going on there. But Katie, of course, that is not all we picked up. Do you want to tell the fine people at home what else you got?
Fine people at home, I also got Hackslash Body Bags, #1. I don't remember if it's Tim Seeley on this Hackslash. Do you remember?
Yes. And I think our plan is just to alert the people.
Yeah.
I also have this book. Is that we're going to add this to next week's reviews
Yes.
because next week is a super light week for us. So yeah.
And we
Keep
had so
an
many
eye
this
out for
week
that
already.
next week.
Yep.
Yeah.
Also got Moon Man, #5, which we started reading like 1,000 years ago, and then it kept having delays and stuff, which is rude. Batman and Robin, Year 1, #1. This is, I believe, the artist from World's Finest Teen Titans.
Did you not already get this?
Was this from last week?
I think so, because I remember you showing it off and being like, Jay did not want to read this because we already had a bunch of books. Or maybe that was when we were talking about the books for this week last week in the end of the thing.
Maybe.
I don't remember.
I don't know.
Yeah.
In any case.
I just remember that. I could be completely dumb.
Absolute Wonder Woman, the baby of Hayden Sherman. I'm so excited.
Katie, don't, that's not for in public. You can go on your own and
okay,
yeah,
fine.
Okay.
What'd you pick up?
No. Well,
tell the fine people.
I also got my Hack Slash Body Bags issue, and I also got my Absolute Wonder Woman issue, which we'll be talking about in our Absolute recap and
Yes.
fantasy episode
2 weeks
coming
from
in a
now.
week from this Saturday.
Yeah.
Um, once Absolute Superman has dropped. Then this is actually a week late because my shop got shorted these, and they had to delay my copy by a week. But it's the final issue of the new Grendel miniseries, Devil's Crucible. So that's really cool. Finally, because I feel like we talked about the announcement of this a long time ago on the podcast, Green Lantern Dark, the new
Yes.
Elseworlds book, has come out. So I'm very excited to dive into that. And
Remind me, what
finally,
universe
in
does that take place in?
it's an
Isn't it
Elseworld.
right? But isn't it in an old universe?
Is it? I thought it was its own thing.
I could
Um,
be wrong.
I've not
I've
read it
been
yet, so you
known to
could. But
be
I thought it was
wrong.
like its own apocalypse. I think it was like an apocalypse universe where a Green Lantern thing happens or something like that. But kind of in theme with our Halloween special episode, got a Saturday morning adventures. I believe it's issue 18. Yeah, issue 18 of TMNT Saturday Morning Adventures. As Katie tries to find out, I'm assuming if the Green Lantern is
Yes.
in a universe. Um,
It might not
she
be.
could be right. Okay.
I think I'm wrong. I think I am quite wrong.
I didn't think it was, but I definitely could have missed that. But I remember it's like
Or I
reading
could have just
the
misunderstood
blurb.
something that I saw. Which is
Yeah,
very likely
absolutely.
because I probably didn't read it
Is
very closely since,
Do you want to talk
I'm
about
not
order?
reading
We
it.
have a decent amount of
Ooh,
things actually in
yes.
the same publisher here, and I know Katie likes to
What do we
do
have? Just a fuck ton of
um,
Image? Oh, no, we just have
publisher
some little
breakups. We got Image and we
couplets.
got two from IDW.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. I think we should start with. It feels mean to start with Rook Exodus, so I'm not going to. Let's start with The Moon is Following Us, followed by Void Rivals, then Rook Exodus,
uh,
then The Hunger in the Dusk, then TMNT, then The Body Trade. Oh shit, Nightwing. Want to put Nightwing first? I normally put DC first.
I have completely not been able to type as fast as you were talking, so let's hope that you remember where this went.
That's
But yeah, that
fine.
sounds
That's
good to
fine. It's
me.
because he's
We
not
can
doing
jump over
stupid ass
to Nightwing.
abbreviations.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
let's
let's
let's let's leap in.
Nightwing 119. Bloodhaven has erupted in violence as rival gangs vie to fill the power vacuum left by Nightwing's cleanup of corrupt officials. But is an outside force turning the gangs against each other, escalating the violence of Bloodhaven to an even more sinister ends? To find out, Nightwing must do the unthinkable, no matter the cost. Don't miss the start of this groundbreaking new arc that will redefine what it means to be a hero. The writer of this series is Dan Waters of Detective Comics, Lucifer, and Homesick Pilots. The artist is Dexter Soy of Red Hood and the Outlaws, Suicide Squad, and Batman and the Outsiders. The colorist is Veronica Gandini, and the letterer is Wes Abbott. Katie,
Yes.
talk to me about Nightwing, but not for 20 minutes.
Okay. Okay. I will be succinct. But first, I'm going to do a tangent. Uh, it's okay. It's a brief one. It's just to say Dan Waters also co-creator
I
on
was just
The One Hand and The Six Fingers. He did The Six Fingers. Yeah. Which we absolutely loved. All right, Nightwing time. So I planned on catching up and fully finishing Tom Taylor's Nightwing run before this issue came out. I failed. That's my B. But I do know what generally happened there, and I know that they like wrapped up in kind of a similar place to where they started. It was like, okay, we've got Nightwing's rise, we've got his fall, and then I can only assume he rises again. Uh, I believe the previous arc was literally that he like I think this might be I don't know if I'm just missing metaphor. I think he literally lost the ability to like jump, which is silly, and I'm hoping that it's more serious in the actual comics when I do my catch up. But we are in a full jumping on point with Nightwing, which is phenomenal because we love being able to jump in on my boy. I really love when like circus things come into play, and they have that in spades. Jay showing up the kind of title page here where it's called "On with the Show," curtain up, and it's in like circusy font. The shadowy behind the scenes figure is doing little monologues and stuff, which I think is fun for a first issue, especially jumping on point. I think that they characterized Dick pretty well, where he was very much like a kind of spiritual successor to Taylor's Nightwing. Like he makes little snips. He's I think a little rougher around the edges than Taylor's Nightwing, at least at the kind of a little longer than midpoint of the series where I still need to catch up on. Um,
It,
Go ahead.
yeah, it felt like, again, have not read the Tom Taylor run, but from what I've seen Dan Waters say, and like just from reading this, it felt like Dan Waters being like, I'm gonna respect what came before, and here's like
Mhm.
Dick, he is this fun, but it also felt like him saying like my Dick's gonna be kind of a bit more, so because he literally has the character
Yeah,
say, I'm known as the fun one, but I'm putting my foot down. Like, if you,
and the
so it felt like Dan
amazing
Waters
follow
being
up
like,
line to
my
that with
Nightwings.
"You don't want it to be on your neck."
Gotta be on
So
your
good.
neck. Yeah, so good. Love that. Like, that's really what I like out of Nightwing, to like have fun, but do not piss this guy off. Like,
Yeah.
that's such a fun line. But like, yeah, it felt like Dan Waters not being in any sort of way disrespectful, but just being like, this
Mhm.
is what my Nightwing's gonna be. He's still gonna be fun, but he wanted to make it clear, it feels like, that his Nightwing is not gonna be fun all the time. Like, his Nightwing's gonna be that, like, you're gonna see the Batman influence. You're gonna, have
Exactly.
that
Yeah.
kind of side to Dick as well. Like, it felt like that was what we were really trying to establish in this issue,
Yeah, and I think that
in
he
my
does a
opinion.
good job of bringing that tonally throughout the characters. Like we see it a bit with Melinda Zuko as well, who Jay, if you're unfamiliar, Melinda Zuko, daughter of Tony Zuko, um,
I was going
adopted
to
daughter
ask
of
you.
Tony Zuko, I believe, and biological son of John Grayson, if I remember correctly. This was way at the beginning of Tom Taylor's run. So technically, they are half siblings. And she's the mayor
Yeah,
of Bloodhaven, as you would have figured out.
I,
Um,
I had heard something about them giving Dick a new sibling.
yeah,
Um, and then so I saw this, I was like, I assume this is who it is. So I was going to ask you. So I'm glad that
yes,
you
yeah,
you have
yeah.
shed some
It's a
light on
half
that.
sibling situation,
Leapt us
and
into the light on that.
there you go. Yes, 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 yes. But I think they did a good job because she, after the initial like arc where it's like, oh, she's Tony Zuko's kid, but she's the mayor of Bloodhaven and Dick has to work with her. After that kind of like gray area arc, I think she was pretty like pro Nightwing on the team sort of vibe. And here we see her being like, I actually have an election coming up, so I need to do things, and it can't just be trusting Nightwing with the city. So I'm excited for that tension to be there, especially because I think Melinda Zuko is a pretty boss ass bitch. She's pretty cool. She like went undercover as a like crime patsy to get her elected official position when she was actually a good person, and like we love to see it. So yeah, I think that they're doing a good job of kind of transitioning us out. I've said it once, so I'll say it 1,000 times. Tom Taylor's Nightwing is really what Nightwing needed after Rick Grayson. And I really like that they're doing a bit of a soft transition out of that, where they're like, okay, we've leapt into the light, now we can kind of adventure elsewhere. Because Nightwing fans are no longer traumatized by a man
Leapt
with a
into the
shaved
light.
head.
We can step on the line of the shadows now. Go
Exactly.
full metaphor with
How did you feel about
it.
Nightwing, having jumped in for the first time in a while?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very much a transitional issue. It's
Mm-hmm.
very much like this is where we are. We're gonna start setting the stage for what's to come. I liked a lot of that setup. I really do like this characterization of Dick as much as one
Mm-hmm.
issue. I like just getting that kind of bad, like, it's one of those things where like, however we feel as readers, I really do. If you're a non-powered vigilante, like, if you're not scaring the people you're fighting, I feel like that's a problem. Like, you don't have
Right?
powers, you should be to some extent scaring them. Even if you're fun to us, you're fun to your friends, you're fun in the team, like, as the vigilante to the people who you are, this vigilante figure to, I do think they should be somewhat scared of you.
Right?
So I like that we get Dick kind of going to this
Mm-hmm.
crime battle, be like, you should be scared of me. Like,
Yes.
I'm the fun one, but you do not want me to not be the fun one. And that is
Yes.
such a nice way to transition Nightwing. So I'm I'm also just very excited for the things that they set up here. I think that
Mm-hmm.
like there's a lot of really cool pieces being set up, and I'm very excited to see where it goes from here. Yeah, his half sibling. I am very interested to see how that goes. It's one of those things where I probably should reread, or at least we have kind of plans for me to get
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
caught up.
I
But
can also
we'll
give
see
you
how
like
that
a
goes.
full download because I'm rereading now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like I want to know kind of that situation, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited is where
Yes.
I'm at. This feels like a
Yeah.
good get me excited issue, so what it needs
Exactly.
to be doing.
I am lightly concerned. Um, Coming off of a creative team with a lot of confidence, I one of the cool things about Taylor Madonna's run was their willingness to do like weird little issues, like they did the single take issue, they did the first person POV issue. I don't know that this is an art style that's really going to lend itself to that. I don't know that there's going to be a lot of kind of shakeups to the format of the books, which is fine. And it's kind of like
Like that's like I wouldn't expect that to continue just because it's the same
exactly
character.
agreed.
Like
I'm just
that's
saying
not
it's
a
a bit of a
normal thing
bummer.
for a DC or Marvel book to do. Like I think you're more likely to find that following Taylor or following Redondo
I
than
think
you
probably
will
following Redondo, yeah.
finding yeah.
I'm just saying it's a bit of a bummer to lose that because it was very fun to have that happening.
I
As
actually
like
really like
wild
though the way
little.
that Dexter Soy draws Nightwing,
I
and particularly
really like
draws
the way he does
action.
Nightwing. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
I
less
like a lot
jazzed
of
on
that.
his
I
ditch. He gets a
showed this
little anime
spread.
y.
Very
Mm-hmm.
nice.
Super rad.
Quite good.
I think he gets a
Yeah.
little like kind of anime boy ish when he's in his
I think it bothers
civvies,
me more in the
but it's
civilian
fine.
stuff.
That's what I'm saying. In his civvies.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree with you fully. But like
yeah.
when he's in hero mode, I like it a lot.
Oh yeah. But yes, that's
But we
Nightwing.
rambled.
It was
So
not 20
we
minutes.
have seven
I am proud
books.
of myself.
Let's jump over to what are we doing next? The Moon is following us, issue
Yes.
2.
The moon is following us. Number 2. Sam and Duncan reflect on the first days of their adventure to save their daughter. The cascade is getting stronger, and time is running out. Who will help them on this epic quest? The writer here and artist on part of it is Daniel Warren Johnson of Transformers to Powerbomb and Wonder Woman Dead Earth. The artist is Riley Rossmo, Harley Quinn, Detective Comics, and Bedlam. The colorist is Mike Spicer, and the letterer is Sean Lee. Jay, you love Daniel Warren Johnson,
I
and
do.
we like right away get some Daniel Warren Johnson art, I believe,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
I
Super.
believe so. Yeah, he got an artist credit. I forgot to add the artist credit to him in this
That's
one, but
fun.
yes, he did also get an artist credit in this, doing some art, which was very cool.
Very welcome. We love Daniel Warren Johnson in this house. He's a cool man.
But I just want I want to start with just like a wow, like this issue. Wow. We can kind of unbury the lead that we kind of were really talking about in the first issue, which is the kind of twist at the end of the first issue that this
Yes.
all is a dream world of their daughter who's like locked in
Mm-hmm.
sleep, which is such a freaking cool
Such a
concept.
good idea.
And we get mostly real world stuff in this issue. We kind of go
Yeah.
back, and that definitely can be a thing that's bothersome in comics. So I love it here. I love going
Yeah.
back and getting all of this backstory as to how their daughter, or I guess not how, but like what happened as their daughter,
Mm-hmm.
went to sleep, and then them going to doctors and trying to figure it out, and then meeting this very weird owl guy who can take them into the like. It's just so freaking cool. Like things got way weirder in this issue, but they
Mm-hmm.
also got a lot more like heart and emotion behind them, which is just a perfect recipe with Daniel Warren Johnson.
Oh
Go
yeah.
weird, go bombastic, but also go heartfelt. And like that's your recipe there. Um,
Yes.
and it's I want to talk about so many things here. I'm going to talk about the main thing is I think I'm gonna not remember the name. Oh, Sam and Duncan. There we go.
Mm-hmm.
Sam and Duncan get so much here to show us like each of their characters.
Mm-hmm.
Like they go through their daughter's condition, I guess is
Yeah.
probably the best word, but it's not like a disease. They go through their daughter's condition in such polar opposite manners, but both
Mm-hmm.
clearly in very caring,
Yes.
manners. And it shows you both them individually and who they are, like as a couple and as a unit, so well that it really builds a phenomenal foundation. I feel like for this series to
Agreed.
move forward. So Yeah, I thought this issue was just phenomenal. Like, it was all the heartfelt stuff I wanted. It was all the building I wanted. It was all this background info, this world building, and really exploring like what this concept is. And it's such a cool, unique concept. So I'm if issue one got me like really like intrigued, this issue got me fully on board for this
Yeah, I
series.
think bringing up issue one, it was very smart to not make this issue one, like because if this is kind of the start of the story with the kid gaining the condition, and them kind of learning about it. Starting off with like just into the action stuff it was so valuable to this book because yes, amazing issue. I think that it works even better as an issue two than it would have as an issue one. Once we're already bought into the concept, once we already understand what is happening and we're watching them learn. So we don't have to learn with them. We can kind of have that dramatic irony from on high as we
Yeah,
see them deal with it. And like you said, I think that it does such a good job, the same way that issue one did, with really making Sam and Duncan such different people. But I really like how it does, just like in issue one, really make it seem like they are very much on the same team. Like, it never feels like they're like about to get divorced or something.
yeah,
They deal with things differently, but it doesn't feel like they aren't a family, which I think is a really, really important thing for this book. Because if like,
I agree.
the twist at the end is, oh, the kid learned that her parents are getting divorced, so she like fell into this eternal sleep, and now they're going to be a family forever. I think that would be a little lame. But
Yeah,
so
like
I
the
think
thing
that
of, oh,
make
they're fighting and then going on the adventure to save their daughters, what brings them back together. Like, yeah,
Exactly. I think that would be kind of lame,
yeah,
and I really like that they do feel like very real people, but people who are going to like they are a family and they are in this together. And even when Duncan's being a bit of a pussyfoot, even when Sam is being a bit hot-headed or ridiculous, like they are going into it together. And I think that's really, really neat. There's a really wonderful kind of lingering shot at the end of the issue. Uh, which it's a kind of a prequel issue, not like a huge spoiler, where they're like each holding one of the daughter's hands, and it's very cute and wholesome, and I think does give that whole family vibe that this book is really built on.
yeah. And I also love like getting the like building of all of the things from the dream world, like their real
Yes,
world connections and the way they were
right.
put there. Like that's such a cool. It's just such a cool idea, and I know that's not like a breaking new ground thing. Like you've definitely the idea of like, oh, these real world things becoming characters and whatever like that.
Mhm.
That's been done, but it's still cool. Like it's something
And
that's
also
great to see.
the I'm not going to say reveal really or twist because I don't think it really is that. It's only like halfway through the issue, but the fact that as they live in the daughter's mind, those become the reality for the daughter to then process in her next night of dreaming. That
Yeah,
is
no, that's
so
super cool that
insanely
she's like
cool.
locked because her brain like thinks that each dream is her actual day and then does a dream. Like that's a super cool concept. It's
Insanely
really
cool.
like they thought it through in a really fantastic way, and it's why I'm just like the concept of this is going to carry a lot, but it doesn't have to live just on the concept because it's
Exactly.
being
Because the writing
executed
is
so
amazing,
beautifully.
the art is amazing. It's
Yeah,
it's a really, really great book.
yeah. I mean, it's just awesome. Like I don't know what else. Like I think that's it.
That's the
It's
takeaway.
just
It's
fantastic.
just fucking awesome.
Yeah.
But are we ready to talk about the Void Rivals?
Okay, Void Rivals 13. I apologize for the extremely long blurb, but we're gonna get through it. Pythona of Cobra Law ventures deep into space. Will her mission spell certain doom for the Void Rivals? Once again, I apologize for how long that was.
It's about
The
time.
writer, yeah, the writer of the series is Robert Kirkman of Invincible, The Walking Dead, and Oblivion Song. The artist is Lorenzo Del Felici of Oblivion Song and Chroma. The colorist is Patricio Del Pecci, and the letterer is Russ Wooten. Katie,
Yes.
I am not gonna for another episode say you've been up and down on Void Rivals because we
I have
established that
been
there's really just
up.
like a week of down and then
Yes.
up. But why don't you tell me how you felt about issue 13?
I want to start off with something that I know we've said before, but bears repeating literally every time. Lorenzo De Felici's ability to like compose a panel is
Yeah,
so astounding. Like the amount of intentionality in his pages is absolutely gorgeous. The power of his images is phenomenal. He is such a like talented artist in terms of like how he draws action and people, but also talented artist in terms of like how he just creates visual art, you know? Like
He's
it's
I'm gonna like maybe this is but he's like a talented cinematographer in his
yeah,
like
yeah,
pan
yeah.
like it's such a like cool like he really I wouldn't be surprised if this is a man who's like studied film for his composition stuff because it
Mhm.
feels very
It
film
does.
inspired, but
But it
I could be
also
making that
is
up.
in the way that Robert Kirkman often is such an inherently comic book piece of like artifact. Reading an issue of Void Rivals feels like reading a comic book and feels like it does things for that effect. Like the way that they show movement, the way that they use panels to express the space that they're in is so beautiful. I just can never get over it. And the coloring does so much amazing work in like the world building of this story. The way that the beautiful golds are in Derek's home and the way that the like muted purples are in Salila's, so amazing. And that's not even to get
Gotta give credit to
into
Patricio Del Pecci for the coloring too,
yes,
because
yeah,
it's just gorgeous all the way through.
phenomenal. And that's not even to begin to get started on Robert Kirkman's writing. These characters are so alive. The way that he does, like, Handroid should be a comical character. And
Yeah,
the way that he did Handroid in this issue was like the perfect kind of dry humor for the tone of this issue. Because he's done Handroid in like
but
kind of
like
goofy ways.
it's a like good just to play on what
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
saying there
yeah,
because I feel like
for sure.
it's like the difference in what Handroid uh needs to be for that like both comedic and like not antagonistic but like opposite
Oppositional.
voice for Solila versus for
Yes,
Derek. Like
exactly.
where it is when he's on the two characters, it's just such a good way that Robert Kirkman understands the way that characters interact with each other, which I think
Hmm.
is probably like his strongest feature, which I think
It's
comes from
really
writing
phenomenal.
something, like The Walking Dead, which is a huge ensemble book with all these characters and interactions, and that's the whole thing. And I think that comes across here where it's like he just understands character interaction on such a real, like, fantastic level.
How did you feel about Void Rivals? Aside from that, if you have more to add.
Yeah, I mean, I thought this issue started a little bit slow.
Hmm.
And maybe not so, like I thought the like maybe front third of this issue was like a little like I don't think Void Rivals is ever bad, which is a little
Yeah,
like below par for Void Rivals. Outside of the Solila cutaways, I thought everything Solila in this issue was phenomenal. I
amazing.
really, really liked that. Lorenzo De Felici got to do some of his coolest freaking work with some of those panels and stuff.
Yes.
Um, but then we reach the back half, and I don't want to go into too much depth, but I will say Derek finally comes face to face with his father again for the first time since issue one, and it might be the best interaction in the series. Like it is so freaking good and emotional and intriguing, and it's just phenomenally done from a writing, art, coloring, lettering level. Like that creates one of those things that you get so sucked into, and that is like the best thing in this issue to me. With Salila stuff also being awesome,
Hmm.
and then we get I like the entire kind of end stretch of this issue. I think is really really
Right?
good
Super,
too. We
super
get
rad.
what's the other? What's not Derek's father? What's the other villain's name? Like the head dude of
The
Salila's
Triangle
tribe.
Man. The Triangle Dude.
Yeah, his whole thing in this issue
Yes.
is so cool. I love whenever
Astounding.
anything, literally anything with those two heads are so good. I do not know how they've built up like the only thing I think to compare it to is like two Vader like villains to me that are
Right?
so intriguing and scary and like I'm always nervous when they're in a scene. Like I love the two of them as villains so much. Anytime they're on the page, I am genuinely like want to get out of my seat
Yeah.
excited. Like they are that cool of villains in like a year worth of comic book. They have become just to me top tier villains, and that
So,
is
so
maybe the
rad.
biggest success of Void Rivals so far, in my opinion.
I like Handroid. No,
But
super
yeah,
good. We love Void Rivals. But to move on to just another absolute superstar creative team. From Void Rivals to Rook Exodus.
Yeah, we're going on our sci-fi binge right now, which is
We really
right up
are.
my alley.
I enjoy good
So,
sci-fi. More of a fantasy bitch, but I enjoy a good
we'll get there
sci-fi.
when we get to Hunger in the Dusk. But
There
let's
we
get
go.
to Rook Exodus number 6.
Rook Exodus number 6. The epic conclusion of the first chapter. It's Rook versus Ursa in a winner-takes-all gambit as the fate of the planet Exodus and all who inhabit it hangs in the balance. Plus, who is Ursa and what does he really want from Exodus? The writer here is Jeff Johns of Green Lantern, The Flash, and Justice League. The artist is Jason Fabok of Batman, Justice League, and Suicide Squad. The colorist is Brad Anderson, and the letterer is Rob Lee. Lay. One of those two. Jay.
I believe it's Lay.
I believe it's Lay as well. Jay, it's the conclusion of the first arc of Rook Exodus. The breakaway hit of 2024. Which is what Image called.
Is it lame to start 2 reviews in a row with WoW?
Because yes, but it's valid.
I feel like that's where I want to start. I also just want to because I don't know if I've said this yet, talking about Rook Exodus, but it's I think a Ghost Machine thing in general. Their books feel so high quality
they feel so
for
high
a $4 book.
Right?
The cover stock is so nice, the pages are nice, they're perfectly binded in a way where nothing's weird.
Yeah.
For a book that's $4 when there's a bunch of $7 books now and $6 books now, this book feels so worth it.
I feel a lot of it is they do a really nice matte finish on it.
Yeah.
That I think really, in a way that glossies feel very cheap, makes this feel very.
It's also definitely heavier though. The cover on this is certainly.
Oh, certainly, yeah. It's definitely a cardstock cover, which DC will wrap around a regular cover and say $6.
Yeah. Whereas this is still $4. But yeah. Wow. Let's talk about the actual book because, textbook, how you end an arc of something that's going to continue. This is such a good conclusion.
So good.
We just get right into it which makes sense because we got such a close on Rook issue with issue 5. We get right into this confrontation, and Jeff Johns' DC comes out so hard, and Jason Fabok's DC comes out so hard as you just get Red Hood and Batmobile action. That is just how this starts, and it's awesome. Everything with the car is so cool. Rook becomes such a badass vigilante type figure. It's so cool. It's so exciting. The stakes feel high immediately with Direwolf and
Carapace.
Yeah. And it's just they get you there. I don't want to spoil, even though it happens I think fairly early. I don't want to spoil the big emotional kind of character and world arc thing that happens and how Rook kind of ends up, doing what he needs to do here.
So you're telling me I'm not allowed to show the gorgeous splash page? Rude.
I am going to tell you that. I think. Yeah.
They'll just have to buy it.
I want people. I don't want to spoil that for people because I think it's so important. I think
it's so well done.
It's really how this book ties together this arc in such a meaningful way beyond just we moved on past the first threat or whatever. I really like the way that it gives Rook such a full feeling character arc, even though he still has room to grow, and we get some real interesting development with Direwolf that I am super excited for. And kind of the issue ender and the lead into where we're going for the next arc is so freaking cool and exciting. So I am psyched on this. This was so ridiculously good.
Like you said, it's such a effective end of first arc thing where we go from our insular one character to such a broader world outside of that. And the fact that perfectly lines up with Rook's character arc as well is a really just wonderful thematic tie-in for it all. The way
so satisfying as a contained thing, even as a bigger thing. It's you always talk about when we get arc enders that don't feel like they'll feel good as a trade because they're leaving open for more. Like, this is something that, despite the fact that it's very going to continue and the story is not over by any stretch, you would not feel gypped reading this in a trade in any way,
Yeah,
shape, or
I was
form. You would
literally
feel
about to say that I'm
very
really
excited.
excited to read it in a trade, and
Oh, yeah.
that is like such a good that's such a good story feeling, you know? When
Yeah.
something feels like something you want to go back and read again, and
Yeah.
experience again. It's so amazing. Jason
Fully.
Fabok's art is astounding. The
Oh,
one
yeah.
gripe I had with it is I thought that the transition from the like encounter with Ursa to the fight with Ursa was a little I like missed one detail that then confused me for the entire thing. Like he pulls the
Like,
like the
when he
hook. At,
pulled. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I had to like
Yeah, I had to go
scroll
back.
back.
I
Yeah,
did have
yeah.
to flip back. Yeah.
So I think, unfortunately, I
That's
think a
fair.
lot of that had to do with the scale of Ursa's machine, because it is used. The massive scale of it is very much used, but in a way that I think was a little bit unclear. Which you never want to have to like scroll back in the middle of like your big fight. So
Yeah.
that was like one gripe that I had with it, but other than that, it
That's
really
fair.
is
No,
like a
I fully.
perfect ending.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree.
Rook Exodus, amazing start to finish. I think that it also, like you said, I think this is a bit of a DCism for Jeff Johns for like the villain to monologue about the hero's flaws to them, and for that to them kind of like bite them in the ass. It's like, oh no, good does prevail in that kind of cheesy,
Yeah.
that cheesy way. That
I
honestly,
mean, there was a
when
lot
done,
of DC coming up. Like, I think Fabok was fully in his DC on this too. He's
yes,
like that big epic final confrontation. Like, I'm going full Red Hood
mm-hmm.
on the way that like
Oh
the
yeah,
pistol drawing there of like, I was like, that is just a Red Hood panel. Like, that's just a Red Hood panel. And then like when the bat not the Batmobile, when his car was pulling
yes, Ursa,
Ursa, I was like, that's just a Batmobile
mm-hmm.
panel. And like, I'm
Yes,
perfectly fine with both of those things because they were
right.
epic. But it was just such a like, Fabok and Johns are in their DC.
Yes, which you know what? That's something they're incredibly good at doing. So I am
Yeah,
happy to bear witness. Bear witness.
fully.
Yeah. But that is going to take us to the end of this arc of Rook Exodus. It's going to be coming back, but I think we're on a bit of a bit of a hiatus after this.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's coming back in
I
2025. I
think
don't think they
it's
said
coming back
when.
2025. I
Yeah,
think we're gonna have like a few months off. Don't know exactly how long, but yeah, it's just I believe because Fabok can't do an issue a month, so
which
there's gonna
is
be
so fair
gaps in
because it's fucking gorgeous.
Exodus. Oh yeah,
But speaking
absolutely.
of
He
gaps,
also does like 3 covers for each issue too. Like, you're not
right?
making it easier on this man.
No, no. I don't think
It's
he's
like
making
cover
it
A,
easy on himself.
Jason
I think
Fabok.
he's
Cover
having too
B,
much
Jason
fun,
Fabok. It's
which I
just so
love
funny
for
when you see
him.
like cover A, B, and C all by the like main
Right?
artist. It's like, you don't have to do
I
that.
feel like Tony Daniel did that for Noctera too. He's
Tony
drawn a
Daniel
lot of
definitely
covers
did
out there. Yeah.
multiple covers for Noctera.
Yeah.
But in any case,
You lost my beautiful segue, which was speaking of gaps in publication. Um,
uh,
time to talk
segue.
about The Hunger in the Dusk.
Let's do it. The Hunger in the Dusk, Book 2, Issue 3. In a war-torn land where orcs are turning against orcs and humans against humans, nothing is more dangerous than traveling alone. But that won't stop Cal. He made the greatest mistake of his life when he let Tara walk away, and he'll do anything to get her back. But will the last men still be standing upon Cal's return? While their guard is down, a surprise visit from West Deepland and his Red Screamers bears some very bad news. The writer of the series is G. Willow Wilson of Poison Ivy, Wonder Woman, and Miss Marvel. The artist is Christian Wildgoose of Batgirl and Assassin's Creed. We have layouts by Mark Laming of Planet Hulk, James Bond, and Fantastic Four. The colorist is Masik, and the letterer is Simon Boland. Katie, we've very much enjoyed The Hunger in the Dusk. We
Oh
sat here
yeah.
with the first 2 issues, one on Cal and one on Tara, and I think we were like, okay, issue 3, they're going to meet back up. Instead, we got one on The Last Man Standing, who you do love.
I
But
do love The Last Man
we
Standing.
did another kind of bottle issue here, so I'm
Yeah,
interested to
yeah, yeah,
hear
yeah.
how you feel about. I think while the second one was definitely expected after the first one, how you feel about maybe now a more unexpected additional bottle issue.
I don't feel positively. Like it's one of those things where I like it as an issue. I don't like it where it is as an issue. Like I think that
Yeah,
if
I think
it
I
was
agree
one of
with
those things where these 3 issues were interspersed with each other and it felt like it was leading up to something, that would be one thing. But my concern is that we're going to get kind of the unsatisfying feeling I had at the end of the first one, because I know that you had it much more strongly than I did at the end of the first volume, the first book, um, where it felt like we were leading up to something and didn't get there. And I feel like this is on track to be another volume installment of this series where we're like leading up to something and the entire book feels like lead up, and like it's really fun lead up. The art is so phenomenal, the battles are so cool. I really like the way that G. Willow Wilson writes the characters. Like the Last Man Standing are so fun together, but I just feel like we're not moving forward in the actual like larger plot of the book, which is rough, which is quite rough.
I fully agree with you. I think it's like it's one of those things, and I think I said it in issue 2 where I was like, I'm actually getting concerned that they're not going to meet back up until the end of the arc, which I think is going to be real
Which I
rough.
think this issue really locks in that it doesn't seem
Yeah,
like they're going to.
and it's like one of those where it's a weird thing because I think every aspect of this book is so well done. Like it's extremely well written, it's extremely well illustrated, colored, lettered. I read it and I enjoy it and it's good. Like it's good to great. Everything in it is good to great. It's more of I question the decisions. Like I don't
Yeah.
love the direction and the decisions
Hmm.
on what they're choosing to do. And I kind of I think in issue 2 cut some slack because I went, well, they know they're going to keep going. So that's what like
Yeah.
I don't know if this issue needed to exist at all. Never mind just in its
Exactly.
placement. Like did we need the Last Man Standing without Cal or Tara and find out what they're going on? Like I get it when it's with Cal. I get it when it's with Tara. I even get it if you go to the orcs without Tara because we've established kind of the main two orcs of her orc tribe as
Yeah.
important characters too. Like this felt both in its placement and just in its existence. I'm like, I don't know if this is what we need to be spending our time on. And like, if this is what they want to do, it's good, and they can do whatever they want to do with their book. But personally, it's just that they're not putting what I'm excited to see in the issues
Exactly.
that we're
Yeah.
getting.
Like I think it's one of
But
those
they
things
are
where
very good
they're
as
so
issues,
good. And
which is the
that
tough thing.
is really driving it so much for me. Like the fact of the matter is I'm still incredibly excited to pick up the next issue of The Hunger and the Dusk, because
In
every
two
issue,
months, I
I think
believe, three
so.
months.
I
This
think
was, I
they've
think,
got
a 2 month gap
a
because there was a 1 month gap. There was like
right.
one skip. I think we have two skip months, so I think it's actually in 3 months we get the next issue.
Like
Um,
everything, like when you are holding this book, it is so good. But every time it's like the space between holding the book.
and then you
And
get a bottle issue.
exactly. Oh, and it's one of those things where when I'm reading the bottle issue, I'm super excited about the issue, but then I get to the end of it and I'm like, I've set the book down and I'm like, okay, the plot has not moved. Like we get a little bit of a plot moment at the very end, which I think is supposed to be like a momentum thing for going forward. But it's with the Last Man Standing. Like they should have had Cal and the Last Man Standing have an issue, and the orcs and Terra have an issue, and that would be the first
But
two
yeah, I'm worried
issues,
we're
and
just
then
gonna
we'd be
jump to like because we just did like we did
yeah. I think we're
Cal, we
gonna
did
go
Tara,
to the
we did Last Man
cousin,
Standing without him. I think we're gonna do Orcs without Tara next, and
but
that's gonna be.
but Terra's already with the orcs.
I think
I'm
my
worried
guess
with
is we'll get like
yeah
her running off to him or something like that, so that we can like
maybe
transition into like they're both alone, and then we'll get orcs, and then in the final issue we'll finally get the because they're 5 issues, right? So we've got two more. But no, I
yeah
think you're right. It's just one of those things where like it's so good, but then you put it down, you're like, oh, this issue did nothing in terms of moving our plot along or doing anything in that. But yeah, it's just it's one of those things that I think where it's about how you enjoy. Like I'm sure there's
exactly yeah
people weirdly. I'm gonna say something weird that just landed on me. It feels not at all in like the content or like the way, but like pacing wise and
hmm
like plot structure wise, it feels a lot like a webtoon where they just like don't
oh that's
move
fair
much
hmm
each issue and they kind of do random bottle things and then you get like the slight little bit of movement and
hmm
like they're just really dragging out this love story so that they can like keep like pacing wise nothing else but just like pacing and
yeah.
story arc wise it feels a lot like a webtoon to me and I'm just
But the
landed on
tricky
that.
thing is that a webtoon is dropping, twice a month, once a month. If it's like a slow one once a month, and this is dropping
Well,
every
I,
two
I I don't think
months.
it's quite as bad as like I think it's the comic book equivalent where like a webtoon will stretch out to 100 issues, 100 chapters,
Yeah.
so it's still stretching out to like multiple years, and this is stretching out to like 24 issues, so it'll still be multiple years. You know, it's like
Right, but the
it's the
tricky thing is
equivalent.
that like instead of getting those like I feel like the kind of drip feed of a webtoon works much better when you're getting that drip very frequently. Because it doesn't feel like I waited so long for this and now we didn't move very
Yeah,
far forward.
I mean, this would
Yeah.
probably be like a better drip feed if they didn't have all the delays. You know,
Exactly, yeah.
but in any
But
case.
still incredibly talented team working on this. It's just the
And
kind of
speaking of bottle
overall shape of
episodes,
it.
let's talk about the series that's starting off with 4 bottle episodes. We got the third one here of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Let's talk about Leonardo.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles number 3. Leonardo is traveling the world in search of peace. All the adventures, good and bad, he's had with his brothers have taken their toll, and he is seeking a new way to exist, leaving the life of New York far behind. On the banks of the Ganges, that's how that's pronounced, right? The Ganges? Ganges?
Ganges. Yeah.
Ganges. Ganges. He has found a turtle colony that shows him a simpler way to be. But even these turtles have their foes. Leo can fend off the poachers easily, protecting his temporary home. But what we do when a deadlier enemy comes searching for him? The writer here is Jason Aaron of Thor, The Avengers, and Wolverine. The artist is Cliff Chang of Paper Girls and Catwoman The Lonely City. The letterer is Sean Lee. Jay,
Yes,
you are Turtle Boy.
I am.
Leo, I think, is Leo also your favorite?
He
Leo, your
is.
favorite
Yes.
boy? Yes.
Yes.
Leo is both of our favorite turtle. I'm a turtle noob, but Leo is my favorite. How are you feeling about the Leo book?
It's very interesting. This is a little bit of a change up. I feel like from the first 2 issues. Like it's similar in the like turtle focused, caption heavy way, but this is definitely a more like I think to try to like match Leo's vibe. It's more of like a spiritual thing than like them
Yeah.
having like more specific kind of stuff going on for him, which really made it, at least in the front bit, because the back bit I'm not going to spoil, but I'm going to say Jason Aaron's done a great job of making these bottle episodes not feel so bodily because he's connecting
Right.
them in each
Mm-hmm.
issue in a very nice way. So we are getting that like connective tissue really nicely, and the way that this leads into the next one is really really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it feels like because they were going with this more like spiritual Leo route, this issue more so than the other two really became a vehicle for Cliff Chang to just draw cool Leonardo and like kind of monkish samurai
Yeah.
art, which like I don't mind. Cliff Chang draws a phenomenal Leonardo, and it's really freaking cool, and I really like the way that it's illustrated. But yeah, I think the concept was really cool, and I think they did some cool stuff with it. But it is like and maybe it's the reason they do meet up a little bit quick. It's maybe the concept that didn't have the full issue length in it the most out of the
Mm-hmm.
three so far,
Yeah.
in my opinion. Like it feels a
Agreed.
little stretched. I do think, despite Leo being my favorite turtle, it's my least favorite of the 3 issues, at least from a writing standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think Cliff Chang killed it. I love a
Right.
lot of the visuals. I really love the way that Leonardo looks. And I think that it's a solid characterization of Leo. I will say, not to too heavy spoiler things. There's a interesting. I guess not spoiler because we get Raph and Mikey meet up at the end of the last issue, and we get a
Yeah.
little bit more there. Their anger towards each other. I mean,
It's
I know we
very
have Mutant
extreme.
Nation coming as a catch up, but it feels out of nowhere from the way that
Mm-hmm.
they had split paths in the main book. Because that was not really like an aggressive, angry thing. So, at least as far as I remember. So,
Yeah.
I'm hoping Mutant Nation will catch us up on why that's going on. And if it doesn't, it feels like a characterization that's coming in a way that doesn't really make sense from what came
Mm-hmm.
before. But that's really my only gripe here, and that it maybe feels a little bit stretched out. But I still thought this was a very solid issue. But I think I'm getting very ready. Though I am excited for Donatello because we got a little bit of that in TMNT Alpha, the one shot. We got a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of his story, and his story does seem to be the most interesting out of where each of the 4 of them are. Um, I'm definitely ready for them to be back together, though.
Yeah.
I think I'm getting a little bit tired of the bottle episode. I want the turtles
Mhm.
together, you know. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I think I agree with you about the it's not even really the pacing of it. I think cuz excitement comes quite early on. I think that it is just like a hair too long before that. Like I actually really liked sitting with Leo as he like tries to meditate and like I thought that the turtle bit was very funny. Like I don't know if it was supposed to be as funny as I found it, but like learning the lessons from the turtles deeply hilarious to me. Seeing Leo covered in turtles astounding. Like his whole "Am I a man or a turtle?" destroyed me. But maybe that's because I'm not desensitized to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle of it all.
yeah.
Um,
I'm so sad because it feel, especially when it's Leo doing like spiritual shit. I take it definitely seriously because he's
okay,
taking it
but like
definitely
question,
seriously.
question.
Yeah.
With that, is it normally "Am I a man or a turtle?" Because like I got it from a mutant point of view, but
It's
like
usually more
the
of like
turtle was very
am I a
extreme.
man like thing. Like I don't think it usually goes as far as like am I the same as a normal turtle, but it usually is like a, are we the same as humans? Are we
Mm-hmm.
like fully human?
Yes, which
And
I think I've been able to take
In
very
IDW, it's very
seriously.
specific. Like IDW went a very X-Men route with it,
Right,
where there's like
right.
a
Where there
bunch of
are
mutants now. It's very
mutants.
much like a are we our own thing? Can we coexist with humans? So especially because they have old Hob there as like
Mm-hmm.
their Magneto type figure who's like very anti-human. So they have like that play with him being like all humans are evil, or they're like no, maybe we can be accepted. So yeah, it's not usually like am I the same as an anthropomorph, not a non-anthropomorphic turtle.
Yeah, so
Um,
that was tickling me
yeah,
in a way that honestly I really liked. Um, to just touch on Cliff Chang's art, because we talked about Paper Girls a while ago. One of the things that I love so much when Cliff Chang
I
is
love
on
this
both
page.
art and colors is the way that he colors. Like he uses these incredibly like vibrant, contrasting colors that are just so gorgeous together. They're so like almost primary. The way that Leo is pulling the katana out with his like gold hands on the pink background with the bold blues of the actual fight. It's so beautiful on the page.
Yeah.
And I love it so incredibly much. Like the
It's also
dark
like my favorite thing
blacks,
is like getting your like samurai Leo or your samurai turtles in general, but particularly Leo, like going up against and I'm
like
talking visuals, I
guns.
know for ninjas, but
Mhm.
like the like samurai visual going up against like the modern tech when you have like
Right?
the lasers on like I just love that. The like, oh here's the
Super,
modern
super
tech
rad.
versus like your traditional samurai, and especially when it's Leo and you just know, like, doesn't matter. Leo's
Yes.
taking this because it's
Yeah.
fucking Leo. And
Absolutely
I
gorgeous.
love that. It's so exciting
And I
and
think
so
to
cool.
touch on what you were getting at with the brothers actually coming together, I think they've done a good job of Raph's issue was essentially just Raph.
Yeah.
Mikey's Raph came in. This one, Leo goes to them pretty early on, like a little over halfway through the issue. And I think with Donnie's, they're probably going to like I think they're coming together for at least half of the next issue. And
Yeah, and I think that
they're
makes
gonna fight
sense
together.
why
Yeah.
Donnie's is also where we already got some of his story in
Mm-hmm.
TMNT Alpha. It's
That
like,
does
oh,
make sense.
that's where we got him completely on his own to then
Mm-hmm.
lead into they're going to be here for this, so he doesn't feel like he gets shafted, you know, in
Yes.
not getting
Yeah.
his story. So I think you're right. Um,
Yeah, which has me really
weirdly,
hyped for issue 4.
yeah, weirdly, I saw something recently that was talking about issue 6 as the issue where they're going to be together moving forward. So don't know. Maybe we're getting a Jenica issue
Maybe
5, which doesn't really make sense because she's the Night Watcher series right now. But
it could
um,
be that they
yeah,
like work together in issues 4 and 5, and then in 6 it's like no, we are a family. We are gonna be
Mm.
together now.
I guess that being like
That
where
would
they
be my
basically
theory.
continue with Donnie's issue into 5, and
Mm-hmm.
6 is like, oh, they're back in New York, back as like
Yeah,
the Turtles team
exactly.
type
Yeah.
thing. Um, so yeah. Anyway,
Super exciting stuff coming on the Turtles. Amazing.
yep,
Cliff Chang,
we got one more
you are
book.
so gorgeous. Yes, we do. Speaking of gorgeous art, the body
The
trade.
single greatest artist in the history of the industry. We're about to talk about Jacques on the Body Trade.
Not at all biased.
No bias. The Body Trade, number 2. After the devastating events of the last issue, Kim is thrown into a blind panic. He's desperate for answers and recklessly barrels forward looking for them. It all comes to a head in a face-to-face confrontation with the full might of the corporation that took his son's remains. A corporation that knows everything about Kim and just how much he has to lose. The writer of this book is Zach Thompson of Blown Away and Into the Unbeing. The artist of this book is Jacques, as we have already established, who is the greatest artist in this industry today, who is the artist on In Hell We Fight, Gold Key Mysteries, and Duster. And the letterer is Katie's favorite letterer, Hassan Atzman Alao.
He's so good at what he does. Yeah.
We really enjoyed the first issue.
Yes.
Why don't you talk to me about issue 2 of the Body Train?
Issue 2, the stakes are so fucking high immediately.
Right?
Like, Zach Thompson has wasted...
Every time he comes into, like, a new character...
Zach Thompson has wasted zero time to be like, oh, this character... No, he's not going to sit on his ass and do nothing about this. Like, he's not going to consider his actions. He's going to go and break into their corporate headquarters and get fucking rifle-butted and, like... He is going to do the most insane thing possible, and you're along for the ride, so sorry, you can't get off. It's so exciting. It's so exciting to read. The absolute balls to the wallness of it is so great, but it also feels so grounded. Like, speaking in vague terms, the person he encounters in the like corporate building makes what I think could be considered like an odd kind of plotty choice, but I think is actually just a very like realistic choice when confronted with Kim, which I thought was a really amazing move for like making this world feel so lived in and making the bad guys of this world feel so convincing as like real bad guys. You know, they're not cartoon supervillains, which I think you could very easily find yourself stumbling into with they have stolen the body of a young boy. Well, I mean, they have bought the body of a dead child.
Yeah.
Like, stolen is not true. Kim didn't consent to it.
Which is such an interesting thing here, too, because, like, in a very high-level sense, our main character is, like, kind of in the wrong in some way, which is a really, like, interesting look at it.
Yeah, I think that it's really a wonderful book for, like, examining power dynamics. Like, Kim is physically bigger and able to overpower most of the people he encounters, but, like, he had no power over the decision of what to do with his son's remains. He has no power when confronted with the person who took his son's remains. Like, it's such a good book for like the struggle of like one man's journey, which is really just astounding.
I want to like it's your, you know, John Wick is the first one I can go to. It's your John Wick type revenge story, but where the main character is not like that ridiculously capable, can take out everybody type character. Like, it's what if not necessarily normal, but maybe a like slightly above average or more realistic, like physically capable guy, like would get into doing this, where it's like, oh yeah, this feels great. The first time he encounters like a couple random people, like, yeah, he's exerting force over them and they're doing what he wants because he's coming at them in like this crazy way. But then once he gets in over his head, like, no, he's in over his head. He can't just like fight his way through the headquarters of this place. It's so cool. You jumped over the first encounter in this book, which I actually really love. With
it's so good. It's so well written.
I can't remember her name, unfortunately.
The essentially receptionist for the company.
Like, I love that so much. Her interaction with him was super freaking cool. Mm-hmm. And then you talked about like just kind of the way this is like running right in the plot. I want to, I just a little bit, but genuinely, Jacques is, I think, one of our favorite artists in the industry. He's so ridiculously good. So I want to talk about what he does to help that pace, which is the average panel count of this book is like 8 or 9 panels a page. It's ridiculously high. There are so many panels. There's pages that have like a bunch of little panels back to back that just really like something like this page. Like, we're about to
pulled
the same
literally
page.
The exact same one. Like, and these don't feel like
makes it feel like it gets your heart going a little bit more. It makes it feel more like hyper. And Jacques is so good at conveying tone both in his page layouts and in the coloring. Where's that? There's like a bright red page.
Oh, I did not pull that
Right
up. I
here.
was just showing
Look at
you.
this. Um,
So rad.
so
And that's like page
yeah,
2,
like
right?
on a
Page
writing
3?
and an
Yeah.
art level, they both work together to convey the tone and the like
Yes.
anxiousness and like pedal to the metal, feeling of this book. In a way that has me fully on board. And I'm a sucker for a revenge story, and this is a very interesting take on it for a main character who,
Yeah.
one, isn't as immediately justified as a lot of your, going to John Wick is, I think, the most like popular pop culture example right now. Like they murdered this man's puppy, like that his
Yes.
dead wife gave him. Like you get such instant, like justification, in a
Whereas
fiction
Kim
sense.
supposedly is responsible for his own son's death.
Yeah, yeah. But even beyond that, like even if you look beyond the initial setup of, oh, he's a bad person, because I think that's a
Mm-hmm.
typical thing of like, oh, this person's a bad person, but they're also going to be justified in this particular mission. Like we get this thing of like, yes, it's very clear something shady's going on, but like on a very surface level, it's like, no, they fair and square like made this deal with the family. They do this with a bunch of people. They're using these parts to help other people. Like on a surface level, it is like this guy just like spiraling in his own guilt and like needing
Mm-hmm.
to get his son's body, which is such an interesting angle to take on it. Because obviously, as he pushes here, you start to see like, no, there's some weird stuff going on too, but like that doesn't
But
come from an
also,
immediately
yeah,
justified place. It comes from him looking into it from an unjustified place, which is such a cool kind of turning it on its head type thing.
and also kind of like you're saying, he's not exactly a reliable, like this is not like a prose piece where someone is giving you their perspective, but
Yeah.
like the book is not painting him in a flattering light. It's not like we're doing cutaways to the evil villain's plan where they're, I don't know, throwing
Yeah.
bodies in the ocean. I don't know what the evil plan would be. That's not a good
I
example of
love
an
that
evil
that's the evil
plan.
play. It always goes back to poisoning the water supply, as
Always
Batman
goes
teaches
back,
us.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's not like they're like harvesting the souls of these people's corpses to like get eternal youth or something on page 5. There's like little hints that, in a very important way for me, might be nothing. Like it
Yeah.
truly could be nothing. This could just be Kim driven to madness, which I think is a
Yeah.
really interesting
Absolutely.
tension to be playing with, and a really good choice
100%.
from Zach Thompson when writing it to not be playing his cards all at once.
No, I'm very interested to see how it plays out because, like you said, it definitely
Right?
could teeter into like, no, he is just wrong territory. But they give you the little things which might
Mm-hmm.
just be meant to like give Kim and give us enough to keep going on the ride to find out that he's wrong. But or they could turn very much into he
Yes,
stumbled upon something in his originally unjustified but will become justified path, which is a cool story too.
it really
So
is.
having options that are open where both paths can give you a very satisfying and cool story is such a good setup.
It's so
I
great.
am so excited for this. This is such a killer creative team
It
on
really
every
is.
level. It's well written, beautifully illustrated, fantastically lettered. Like here for it.
Chef's kiss. But now comes the part of the episode that I did not prepare myself for, and that is picking our pull list rack. Jay, I know that you were torn, and you seem to still be torn. This is not so. I feel like
Hardest time I've ever had.
normally when we discuss books during the chat, I'm able to kind of like make my decision, but that didn't happen this time because
This is by far, I think, the hardest this has ever been for me. Like, one, we
it's
have a ton of books. Two, they're so good. Three, so many of my favorite books fell on this week. Like, I
right.
am such a sucker for so much of this stuff. I have no clue.
I think I
Please
think I
go
have my
first.
answer. Yeah,
Because if you
with
choose one
the
of mine, I can just not choose that
with the
so that it
knowledge
still
that it
gets
was a
like.
very close race between,
Oh,
I think, almost all of them. I am going to
I
give.
have. I'm very
I
torn
say
between one.
almost. Yeah.
Yeah,
I had 3 at the top. I am going to
that's
give
fair.
my pull list rec to Rook Exodus number 6. It was
It
just
is one of the
such
two I was going to pick.
a phenomenal ending to the series. Or
Yeah.
to the arc. Like we said in the review of it, it both sticks the landing as an arc ender and opens the world up so amazingly. It's a book that makes me want to reread it, which is such a wonderful trait for a book to have. it's a book where I am going to have the floppies in my collection and I'm going to get the trade, which is like just very high praise for me. And it had the benefit of being that sick arc ender. Did that make your decision
Yeah.
any easier?
It's already leaning, I think, a little bit more towards the other one that I had up there along with Rook Exodus, so I feel extra good now that you're going to give Rook the Polis Rex, so it still gets one. I got to give this week to The Moon is Following Us, issue number
So
2.
good.
Because it just, like, there's a level when a book can hit you with so much emotion, and it's like, to some extent, that's what comics are about, man. Like, you want to get people to feel things, and
Yeah.
this issue got me to feel things. And beyond that, it got me excited about the world and the lore and all of this great stuff. It's also right towards the beginning, so I think you can hop on The Moon is Following Us pretty easily. I think they're doing a second printing of issue 1, if I'm not mistaken,
I think
so
they already
you can hop on
did.
that. Oh, they already did. So, listen, Image does a lot of second printings and third
Yeah.
printings and fourth and fifth printings now,
And
which
I'm
is
sure that with the
great
Daniel
because
Warren Johnson book, they were
oh,
ready.
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I'm going with The Moon is Following Us, number 2. I think you should read this book. Katie went with Rook Exodus, number 6. So these are your 2 official poll list recommendations of the week. Pick them both up and pick anything else we read this week because damn, it
Such
was
a
a
good
great week,
week. God
start to
damn.
finish. But Katie, we got one more segment, and I always forget what it is. So why don't
Oh,
you
well,
remind
don't
me?
you worry, Jay. We are headed over to the Creator Corner. Alrighty, here we are in the Creator Corner where we sit back, relax, talk about books, talk about the comic industry, and today is going to be a little bit more of an industry crumbling for us because we're going to talk about a staple of the industry, the Halloween special. Jay has already preempted that I cannot shackle him with one type of special because this week I didn't keep it a secret. Um, and so
No,
we
nothing's really secret
made
this week. I also know your strange Saturday pick already now because we hit on
that's
that
right.
earlier in the episode. So
Yeah, I
secrets are
all
dead.
of my cards are laid bare. Uh,
Yeah. Minor Arcana up
Bummer.
in here. I can read your future.
Yes, you are. Oh no, I thought I was going to be able to pull your name out of thin air, but it's only been 2 issues. Leave me alone. But we are going to talk about writing specials, writing and the format in which specials come out. If you didn't see it this past Saturday, we read 14 Halloween specials to celebrate spooky season, ranking them in a classic script heroes tier list. Um,
Classic script heroes.
Classic script heroes. We created the format, you know. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so we're, I would say, experts in the field of Halloween specials.
I think so. We've
Yeah,
probably read a good like 10% of the
14.
ones that exist now. So,
Yeah, exactly. So a couple of them were anthologies, a couple of them were single issues. What do you think is like the ideal? And we can, like you said, we can branch out to other things. We've done
yeah.
Christmas specials. We've done, or we haven't, but Jay and I, as friends and readers, have read Christmas specials, have read summer specials, Valentine's Day ones, all sorts of things. What do you think is the way to go? Are we looking at?
Yeah,
Do
well,
you
there's
prefer
two
the
ways I
single
really
or the
like, and then there's I
anthology?
think the
Mhm.
worst way. So I think if you're just doing it like kind of open-endedly for a character, for a world, or like if DC is just gonna do a DC one, or
Mhm.
if you're gonna do one for a character that doesn't really have a book, or you just want to do it for like the character in general. I think going the anthology route is a great idea because you can have a bunch of creators jump on, do little things. So if DC is gonna just do one for the DC universe, I think it should be an anthology and you should get like a few different DC stories in there. But if you have an ongoing book and you want to do a Halloween special for that book, very much in the the Saturday Morning Adventures TMNT route, just make an issue of the book that is kind of Halloween themed, and that is your Halloween special. I think that's perfectly cool too. Like if you have an ongoing that keeps going, and you can just do a little one shot in there, I think that's a solid way to
So
go.
you're
But
saying a one shot within the like numbering of the series, or are you saying the way that the TMNT one did, where it was like it didn't interrupt the story at hand? Like, it was its own
Yeah,
thing.
I mean, the TMNT one did technically have 2 stories in it, one main story and
Oh,
event.
no,
But
that's not what
I
I'm saying. I'm
would,
talking about, do
yeah,
you think it should be like TMNT Saturday Morning Adventures number 12 and it's just Halloween
oh
themed?
no, I think you should do it as a like
Okay, just making sure that's
special.
what you meant. Yeah.
It's just like doing an annual. It's like doing an annual, you
Exactly. Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah.
no, I don't think you should within your numbering do a Halloween
Yeah. That's
special.
what it
'Cause then you're
sounded
like,
like to me, and I was very
then some readers
confused.
are gonna feel like they've been deprived of a real issue
Yeah.
for a Halloween special. Whereas if you do it as a bonus thing, one, you get to sell another thing, and
Right.
two,
Love that.
nobody's gonna feel gypped because they're still
Exactly.
getting
Yeah.
their normal issue.
That's what I figured
So
you meant, but I was confused by your
no,
verbiage.
no, good clarifying. So yeah, those are
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
two
Yeah.
routes. I do
So, what
think
are the ones that you
if
think
you're doing
aren't
the one
as
like
good?
yeah, I think if you're gonna do it like in like say the Saturday Morning Adventures, did that, but then they had like 5 short stories in that book
Hmm.
that were like all different turtles and different continuities and stuff like I think that'd be weird. Like you're doing it for this book, do it for these characters. They had a story and a backup story,
Hmm.
and they didn't follow the same characters in those 2 stories.
Yeah.
It was like it was structured the way a normal issue would be structured. I think if you're gonna do it within the confines of an existing book, so like if you have, you know, DC and Marvel are like special cases. So I'm trying to think of like things outside of the DC Marvel bubble. Like if you have a
Transformers.
Power Rangers book going on,
Okay.
you know, and you do a Power Rangers Halloween special, and you're using like the same Power Rangers logo and you're doing it like as if it's a subset of that series. And then it's a bunch of short anthology stories that are not in the continuity of that series. I think that's weird and confusing. Like, if you want it to be an anthology thing on its own, I think you should set it up to be an anthology thing on its own and not make it feel like it's paired to the main series. I think you need to really pick your lane.
Hmm.
If you're pairing it to the main series, commit to pairing it to the main series. If you're doing anthology, commit to doing anthology. Make them clearly either with or distinct. I think that's your step one. You really need to pick your lane. Is this
Hmm.
tying in other things, or is this completely its own thing just for fun for Halloween? So pick a lane, stay in it. That's my first step. How do you feel, Katie? You can shit
I
all over everything I just said.
no, because I think that you said some very like just correct things. Like, I don't know that
I'm
any of the
always
stuff
correct.
that we read was like pretending to be a part of, or
It felt
Mm-hmm.
was a
like the
part
Ben
of.
10 one was kind of there.
Okay, the Ben 10
Um,
one, and I think the Sonic one a little bit. Um,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. Uh,
But yeah, the Ben 10 one was particular where I was like, this feels like a set of kind of anthology things, but it feels like this is set up in their universe because I think they were using a villain from their
oh,
run or
gotcha.
whatever. So
That's
I was
fair. That's
like,
fair. Jay
this,
has all the Ben 10 lore that
yeah, I
you
didn't
could
know. I think
use.
I said this in our review. I was like, I'm not familiar with this villain despite watching every Ben 10 thing ever. So it feels like it's from their comic run because, admittedly, as big of a Ben 10 and as big of a comic book fan as I am, outside of Cartoon Network used to do like kind of bind ups. So I've read some of the like very classic Ben 10
Mhm.
cartoon, like short comics that were in like bind ups. Outside of that, I've not read many of the Ben 10 comics, despite being a huge Ben 10 fan and a huge comic fan. I've not intertwined those much. But yeah, sure.
But no, fair enough, fair enough. I was wondering if you had an example. I'm really
Yeah, that was my
partial
one.
to the like short anthology stories. I think it's
I
one of
think that's
those
super fun.
things
I just think you need to
where
like
yes, yeah,
get in
absolutely.
that
I
lane.
think that is the best way to do like a Halloween special. I think that being able to look at a bunch of different characters doing silly Halloween things is very fun because we really loved the Transformers Halloween special that we read. Like, I think it made it into our top
It was
tier
so
even.
good.
It was so
Yeah.
good,
But
but that
that was, I
feels like
think,
such
that
a
example of the one shot within the universe, right? Like that's
yes, yeah. But it
yeah.
also feels like a example of what's the what's that phrase for when like the exception proves the rule in a way where we then looked at the Max thing
Race
and
is the
that was
exception proves the
terrible.
rule.
Or isn't that the
Yeah,
Isn't
yeah,
that
that is. You
yeah,
said
yeah,
what's the
okay,
exception?
right.
The expression for the exception proves the rule. And I was like, that just is the expression.
I found it along the way.
Okay, yeah, yeah, you're good.
As often
I have
happens.
to. I'm your co-host. I have to,
He
poke
must
fun at the
roast
way
me. It's
you say.
it's
You pointed out the spelling error in my tier list at the very end of the tier list for maximum embarrassment and no ability to fix it. So I feel no shame in coming
hey,
at you
dear
now.
listeners, he spelled razor with an E.
I spelt it like the scooter because we were talking about the scooter. Clearly,
Clearly, yes, yes. In any case, yeah, I think that those anthology stories are going to give you like the best tone for it, because I think that with the
yeah,
Transformers thing, it's like this was an amazing one shot, regardless of like Halloween theming.
yeah,
But then you see some of the other one shots that we saw, and it's like, okay, the Max one, or not the Max one, it was Troll. It's like this
well,
is
yeah,
confusing and bad. So
yeah.
like you're really you're swinging for the fences at a real fast pitch if you're going for just if you're putting all your eggs in the one story basket, and you're
Totally
also
agree.
committing to, I think, or at least should be with like a full length story, committing to a less comedic tone than you can get with like silly little one shot.
I think you landed
Like
on should be. Like, I
should
think
be,
that's
yeah,
perfect.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think
Uh,
that's the correct way to say it because
yeah,
there's absolutely ones that do not.
because like even with something like the Sonic one, it was like a little too much. Oh, is one
Yeah,
issue to have the kind of like comedic kids themed comic that also was like too sweet, adding the Halloween on top. Um,
yeah,
Whereas with something like, to use DC and Marvel as an example, DC does these wonderful, Halloween special bind ups of like a bunch of very short, like 2 to 8 page stories, and you can get a lot of mileage out of that because you can do silly things,
yep.
you can do like unique things, uh, you can do all sorts of like not necessarily serious and canon compliant things. You know what I mean? Like not,
Yeah.
obviously deviating totally, but you could turn Jimmy Olsen into a slug in a Halloween special and not need that to like be something that transfers over to main continuity, you know?
I mean, the Marvel one I think is a good example. They literally just did an alternate Punisher that has
God,
no
so good. The Punisher at
bearing.
the Opera, get out of here, dude.
Yeah,
So
yeah, like
amazing.
that's the thing where I'll actually, I'm rarely gonna tip my hat to Marvel editorial over DC editorial, but it feels like I think DC tries to still make it where like it could be canon, where like you can
Yes.
decide
Yeah.
if it is. They're not gonna like go this is definitely, but they have the characters pretty much where they are. Like in the one
Mm-hmm.
DC we saw, like Dick was Batman and
Yeah.
Damian was Robin because that's where they are in the world at that time because they want it to feel like it could be canon. This is
Mm-hmm.
maybe what's actually happening. I think Marvel leaning fully into like, no, these are just their own thing. These are not canon. These are just stories with these characters. I think that's better. Not that I don't enjoy the DC ones. I absolutely do. I'm
Right.
just
Right.
saying
Yeah.
I think it's better to fully commit to these are not canon, so you don't have to worry about like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, did this dumb silly thing actually happen in our more serious, world or whatever.
Yeah.
So, it's a very slight thing, but I'm just gonna give the slight tip of the
Yeah,
cap to
no, I,
Marvel
I
on
think
that
that
end
that's
versus DC.
incredibly fair. And frankly, I would read an entire series of The Punisher at the Opera, because
It
that
was
was
really freaking
dope
cool.
as hell.
If you want to check out where
Um,
that ranked, along with Transformers special that we said was super cool. Check out the video; it'll be linked. Yeah,
yes, very fun time. We wore costumes. You should too, dear listener. Um, uh, but yeah, so I like the like bite size anthology things because I
I
think that
agree with you.
that lets it be a silly little Halloween special instead of like something where I'm left wanting a lot more. Where I'm like, oh, that Transformers one shot was really really good. I like feel very invested in that. Or the Punisher at
Yeah,
the Opera, I'm like, I'd want to read more of that. And I'm like, no, I
yeah.
like that Superman and Lois put on a silly haunted house at the Daily Planet.
So you said like with the show, like sometimes like it gives you. I think you said something like don't put all your eggs in the same basket. Which the other thing is like you get more chances to have that one thing that'll stay with people.
That's fair.
Like the
That's very
Savage,
fair.
like Red Sonja,
Mm-hmm.
Halloween special that we read. Like the story that we read in that was one of their short. It was a little bit longer than the other one, but it was one of like multiple stories and think no
Yeah.
Sonya's story. So like they had multiple shots, and that one, and we didn't read the others, so they could have also been good. But like that one was phenomenal. And
Yeah.
you give yourself the ability to have maybe one thing in there or two things in there that end up being phenomenal, and that's,
I
I think,
mean,
really good.
if you scroll back to, God, like 6 months ago when we read the DC April special, that Detective Chimp story was astounding. Like, there are really amazing short
Everything
form
was really good in
stories.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
They're really
but you're
amazing
right,
short
Detective
form
Comics one
stories you
was
can
like,
tell. And I think the way that DC uses like holidays and specials to get a bunch of short form content out there is really stupendous. So I'm very partial to that. Yeah,
yeah.
we've kind of
They've really been doing that, I think, over the last like year or so, which is why, like, if you go to our video, the DC Halloween specials were from a long time ago, because DC
yeah,
hasn't been doing this like constant specials thing for very long, maybe for
yeah.
about a year at this point.
The Halloween
Um,
one was one that they did for a number of years, and
yeah.
it was much shorter than it used to. Like it's much longer now. Like now it has an actual like spine because of how much content they put in there.
Yeah, no. The specials they do now are big, and they're really committed to doing them fairly frequently, and
Yeah,
I think that's awesome, and I hope they keep
right.
doing that.
I think that the Pride special might have kicked that off for them.
I think it was Pride and Power. Like, I think they were
Yes,
doing
yeah.
the two of those, and then I think those kind of led into them being like, oh, wait, maybe
We
we
should
should do
do
these
Norts
specials.
Illustrated, which was a bad one.
That wasn't even, because like that was basically a pinup thing, and then they took one already existing short
Oh right, I
story
forgot it
and
was already
made one new
existing.
one.
Yeah,
So that wasn't like really fully that was
no,
weird. I don't know
that's them
what was going
trying
on
to do
there.
too much. Um,
Yeah.
ODC. They have some good ideas and then they make them bad, uh, as is our burden to bear as DC fans. But yeah, so specials super fun. We love
Yep.
the anthology format, and also when they're done well, the longer one shot format. Do you think? I brought up the April special, and we just brought up the Norts Illustrated. Do you think there are like occasions that should not be granted a special? Do you have any like do not ever do this or something that you think really does need a holiday special that hasn't
I
gotten
think
one?
Marvel and D. I think people need to people need to understand that you're not Marvel and DC. Like, Marvel and
Oh
DC can do
yeah,
one for
yeah,
every season and everything because they're pumping out so many books. It doesn't
yeah.
become like obnoxious that they have a special every month, or two specials every month. Whereas like if, say, the Energon universe, just because we're talking about Transformers,
Yeah.
did a special for every single holiday, because they only have like 4 books coming out a month usually, that would feel really weird. If now they had five and one was always some sort of holiday special,
Yeah.
that'd be super weird. Or like if Ghost Machine started doing specials every single, like, that'd be super weird. You
I would
know,
read a Geiger Christmas special, frankly.
yeah.
Like I've read
We
no
know Saturday
Geiger
Morning
books.
Adventures has been getting away with doing a bunch of them. Like, Saturday Morning
Mhm.
Adventures, I think, is done like 4 or 5 or something. Like, they did an April special because April O'Neil, so
Yeah.
April special, whatever. But yeah, I think it's like it doesn't have to be. I would limit yourself to doing, if you're not a huge pub, like doing like one or two a year. Like, do like Christmas and Halloween would be my picks.
Right?
Um,
They're very good like
Pretty
thematic
thematic.
things. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The holidays don't necessarily have a strong like thematic ties to them. Like,
hmm
I know Valentine's Day is a big one, but honestly, I think those tend
I
to be
think
bad more often
DC's
than
only
they're
done
good.
one Valentine's Day one, right? I think this year was their first one.
Yeah, well, yeah, because
Oh,
DC
I
just started
think
committing to all the holidays.
they did
But
one last year that was like just Harley Quinn doing a bunch
that
of
sounds right.
romances. I think she might
Yeah, but
have
but
romanced a
anyway,
T
my point is just
Rex.
like, I know that's like a
Yeah,
go-to thing. Like, it's
yeah,
Valentine, we'll
yeah.
do a Valentine's, but I think that is
Overplayed
it doesn't
and
always lead to
under
the best thing,
themed.
because whenever you're like artificially do romance, and especially do romance short,
Yeah,
I think that is not as great a breeding ground. And honestly, if you'd come into it, I would have said the April special was probably pushing it, but
it
then they
really
delivered
was.
really good stories. So it's like,
Exactly.
that's the nice thing about the anthology format. Like, if you're doing it as a special in an ongoing, like, I think you're really going to get to those points where you're pushing with certain things. If you're doing it as a collection of short stories, especially if you're a big publisher that does a lot of things, like, as long as you're putting together interesting creative teams and they're doing interesting things, I don't think you're ever going to really burn people out on like short anthology stories.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
But the second part of that question, and I think this applies mostly to DC and Marvel, but I suppose some of the bigger small publishers could get it too. Uh, what what holiday or occasion do you want to see an anthology special for? or even just a one-shot special. But I think anthology is fun.
A local man Black Friday special.
That's hilarious. That would be amazing. Tim Seeley, Tony Fleeces, you now have your reason to come back to Local Man. And it's for a Black Friday special. That's so fucking funny. Oh my god.
That's my answer. Do you
I'm
have one?
so mad. I think they should do a St. Patrick's Day one. I think that's rife for happening. Like I think DC
Who do you want to do
specifically. I think DC. And they do like Green Lantern, Green Arrow.
Oh no, I was going Constantine. I think that'll be funny.
Constantine too, yeah. But I think that having like
I just
a
want
Green
him
Arrow,
drinking on St. Patty's Day. I don't know why. I think
he
that's
would.
very entertaining.
Though he is English, so I don't think he's allowed to celebrate an Irish holiday. Get fucked, Constantine.
That's fair. That's fair. You got to do a Guy Gardner story, right? Like that's the plan of
Exactly.
Green Lantern,
He's
right?
Ginger. He's a Green Lantern.
Yeah.
I think there
Like you
should
do your Irish
a
lad.
Green Lantern, Green Arrow duo story where they're fighting to be like the mascot for St. Patrick's Day in some city. And then, of course, some evil doer has to come in and fuck with that. There must be.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of luck themed.
There's got to be an evil leprechaun in DC.
Oh, there's got to be. There's got to be. Batman certainly has one.
Yeah, Leppy, little Leppy. He's one of the worst villains.
Yes. But yeah, I think specials are fun. I think that DC is maybe overdoing it.
I'm blanking now. Never mind.
No.
Never mind. I lost it.
I was so excited. Well,
I lost it.
If you want to hear more of Joe's ideas, when he doesn't forget them,
okay. It's back. You do Lord Fleas with a pot of gold.
That's phenomenal. What's mine is mine, is mine is mine, is mine is mine, not yours. I love that boy. He's such a little freak.
He does not even try to keep it on the beat of the lantern oaths.
Yeah. Why don't you recite it for me, Jay? Give us a nice emphatic orange
lanterns. Is mine is mine. Is mine is mine. Is mine is mine, and not yours.
There we go.
I believe that was on beat. I might have fucked that up.
I believe you.
I think I fucked it up because I didn't keep the and not yours in the beat of the last one. So that was tacked on to the beat because I forgot that I had to incorporate that in the last line. But
well, again, clearly Jay is a fake fan. You should go over to our Halloween special video and tell him that he needs to remove the Green Lantern themed costume that he's wearing.
As a real fan, I do know there's an alternate Orange Lantern oath that has actual words, but we pretend it doesn't exist because the other one is much more funny.
It's so good. It's so good. But obviously we've been talking at the wazoo about the Halloween tier list. That came out last week. This coming Saturday is going to...
Like, we're basically begging you at this point.
Right?
Go
it was
watch
fun.
Yeah.
This coming Saturday, please watch this too, is the Strange Saturday Super Show. We talked about it earlier in the episode. It's my pick this month, and I am choosing Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. It's going to be a great little post-Halloween, spooky, horrifying book. It's really cool. Experience it with us. But of course, we also have our regularly scheduled programming. Jay, what's going to be in the polls next week?
Speaking of Tim Seeley, we've got Hack/Body Bags #1 coming out it came out this week, but we are doing it next week because again of just the number of books on a given week. Yeah. Then we have It Happened on Hyde Street Devour #1. I was super jazzed about the first Hyde Street issue.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited to get this one shot. Interestingly, coming after just one issue of the main series. So that's
they had to get it in for Halloween.
Yeah, they did.
So I guess they are getting it in for Halloween. Yeah. We aren't. But
talking about getting it in for Halloween, we're also going to be reading The Last Halloween #2.
I'm sorry. What series is that?
You're right. The Long Halloween, The Last Halloween, #2.
I'm sorry, who's in that series? I believe the full title is Batman, The Long Halloween, The Last Halloween.
I'm sorry. You're right. I forgot Batman. I was like, that's the whole thing. It's a long last. I was like, what else do you want from me? The last is Batman. No, the even longer Halloween. Then we have Wolverine Revenge #3, and Hour of the Wolf #1, a new #1 from Mad Cape founder Mark London, who I
Yeah.
think this is his second book that he's launched recently, but he hadn't been doing much since the end of Battle Cats. So yeah,
He was
it'll be
working
the
on
first
that
thing I've
sweet,
read
sweet
since
omnibus.
Battle Cats from him. So I'm super excited.
Super
But
excited indeed.
yeah, in any case, see you next week, Comic Geeks.